Donald Trump has confronted South African President Cyril Ramaphosa in the White House in scenes reminiscent of February's ambush of Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky. The US president alleged mass killings and land seizures from white people, claiming white farmers are being executed, to which his South African counterpart replied, "They're not."
President Trump got straight to the point, his claim that there's an effective genocide of white farmers taking place in South Africa.
We have many people that feel they're being persecuted and they're coming to the United States. So we take from many locations if we feel there's persecution or genocide going on.
President Ramaphosa calmly rejected the claim.
If there was Afrikaner farmer genocide, I can bet you these three gentlemen would not be here, including my Minister of Agriculture.
But President Trump played a video in the Oval Office to try and back up his claim, including scenes of politicians from fringe parties chanting, "Kill the Boer." And he produced newspaper reports of killings of white farmers.
Death, death, death.
Then the two presidents got stuck in.
And they're a small minority party, which is allowed to exist in terms of our constitution.
But you do allow them to take land.
No.
You do allow them to take land.
Nobody can take land.
And then when they take the land, they kill the white farmer. And when they kill the white farmer, nothing happens to them.
No, there is
nothing happens to them.
There is criminality in our country. People who do get killed, unfortunately through criminal activity, are not only white people. Majority of them are black people. And we have now been utilized.
The farmers are not black. I don't say that's good or bad, but the farmers are not black.
Elon Musk, President Trump's South African-born advisor, looked on at the unfolding row between the current and incoming heads of the G20.
Well, Sean is standing by for us now in Washington. Sean, in a reaction stretching credulity to its limit, I see the Wire's reporting tonight that South Africa's president reported that the meeting went very well.
Well, very well, depending on your perspective. I mean, he was led into a huge big trap and was invited to jump in head first by President Trump. He didn't quite do that and had brought along countermeasures himself. That reference in the report there to those three gentlemen that President Ramaphosa talking about were white golfers, Ernie Els and Retief Goosen, and also his agriculture minister, John Steenhuisen, who's also white. He's an opposition party leader, but he joined Ramaphosa's government last year, as he told the meeting, precisely to fight against the kind of radical people who are calling for white farmers to be driven off the land. He said we have to keep them out of governments at all cost in South Africa, but there's no getting away from it. This was an ambush. That's the word that most of the media over here are using, an ambush of the South African president by the President of the United States, who was advancing a set of ideas that have been widely debunked. This notion that there's a genocide against white farmers in South Africa has been floating around by an organisation called AfriForum. But those claims have been widely dismissed by people in South Africa who regard a lot of what Trump has been saying as a bit of a joke. But it's gotten very serious now because he's used the majesty of the Oval Office to go on the offensive against the President of South Africa. A really difficult situation.
Sean, thank you.
And staying with that story, Niall Standage, Associate Editor of The Hill in Washington, joins us now. So, Niall, it started off jovial and friendly, but it really went downhill. And as we heard earlier, clearly an ambush and a pre-planned ambush by President Trump.
There's no question about that at all, Eileen. Cyril Ramaphosa, the South African president, becoming the second foreign leader after Volodymyr Zelensky to walk into an Oval Office ambush. President Trump had not only headlines printed out about the killings of white farmers in South Africa, but there was also a video presentation that President Ramaphosa had to sit through, showcasing incitement from much smaller parties that are not part of Mr. Ramaphosa's government. So obviously a pretty debacle-like meeting and a difficult one for the President of South Africa to deal with.
Now, clearly, Mr. Ramaphosa is trying to reset relations. He brought along two famous South African golfers, a billionaire, in an attempt to woo President Trump, but it didn't work. What was his reaction when that video was played?
He was, for the most part, I think, trying to be fairly calm. He talked, not just immediately after the video, but on a number of other occasions, about the need for discussion, about the need to address difficult issues. But he pushed back fairly firmly against this idea that there is a quote-unquote white genocide in South Africa. He was candid in acknowledging that South Africa has a very serious problem of violence, but he was rebutting the argument that was specifically targeting white people. At the same time, he didn't get into the full-on kind of squabble that we did see Mr. Zelensky get into with President Trump and Vice President Vance a few months ago.
And how significant is it that Donald Trump decided to make his first meeting with an African leader a meeting with one he clearly sees as a foe?
I think there will be a lot of discussion about that here right now, because it does seem, frankly, that Mr. Trump chose this meeting as a way to carry out this ambush of the South African president, and why I think we have to see it really as an attempt to capitalise upon white grievance in the United States and to further Mr. Trump's narrative that there is reverse racism or excessive wokeness. We know he's very against so-called DEI, diversity, equity and inclusion initiatives. So I think, unfortunately for the South African president, he was made a bit of a prop in Mr. Trump's broader political and cultural argument here.
Now, that news conference has just ended, I believe. Where do things go from here now? What's happening for the rest of the evening between these two delegations?
Well, there was supposed to be a lunch. I'm not exactly clear why or whether that has happened, because the length of the debate in the Oval Office really extended far beyond where we expected it to be. There are still to be discussions. There was some suggestion, certainly from Mr. Ramaphosa's side, that there would be an effort at constructive discussions aiming to reset relations and to boost trade between the two countries. But obviously, the atmosphere is pretty toxic right now.